Welcome to the Motormouth YouTube channel. I'm Zach.
I'm Andrea.
And we do full-length car reviews each and every week. If you subscribed, you'd know halfway through we stopped for a segment called Questions, Coffee, and Cars. We spun it off. We're at number 124. How do you get a question in?
Follow along on Instagram at motormouth_Andrea. Every Sunday morning I put a post out on Instagram asking for questions. Once we gather our questions, the post is deleted and we start the show.
It was pretty close there.
I was going to
Mr.
say that truck came by and pretty fast.
Time now for Questions, Coffee, and Cars.
Your questions from Instagram.
Hi, I think I've missed the question, coffee, and cars post. You got in.
You're here.
Just wanted to ask you, Civic Si 2025 versus Civic Hybrid 2025 hatch. Which one would you choose? Isn't that a good one?
This is tough.
Should we do a 3, 2, 1 on that one?
Yeah, this might surprise you all. Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Hybrid.
Si.
Oh, that's switched from what I was thinking.
No. And you go ahead.
Now, we haven't driven the updated SI. They did do a tweak to it, right? So we haven't driven that one yet. But
Still going to be great.
My problem with the SI is it has what's called rev hang. So when you, now I haven't driven the latest one, so just pump the brakes. When you're accelerating and then you want to change gears, clutch goes in, the revs don't decline, they kind of hang up. They go, and it slowly comes down. That I don't like about the SI. But other than that, it's a great car.
Oh man, I just love the Civic Type R and the SI with the manual transmission. I think that Honda makes a fabulous manual.
Okay.
But they're so different. The hybrid's got amazing fuel economy. It's smooth. It's quiet. It does everything right that a hybrid should do.
They have the same output, 200 horsepower.
I know.
But the other thing, Andrew, what I was going to jump in and say is,
yeah?
I like the form function of the hatchback. And the SI is only sold in a sedan.
True.
And you can get, as the question states, you can get the hybrid in a hatch with the same power.
I don't know. I just love that manual so much. I'm going to have to go SI, but I'm a big fan of the hybrid as well.
There's no wrong answer.
Hi, YouTube. Big fan of the channel. When you interviewed that gentleman from Toyota Canada regarding auto theft, he mentioned that hybrids and plug-in hybrids aren't as popular amongst thieves. Do you have any additional information on the reason why? Do you have any numbers or data backing that claim? Thank you for your good work and your content. Well, we interviewed Scott McKenzie, and very knowledgeable, obviously, on this subject. Here's the thing about plug-in hybrids, and EVs. These vehicles that are stolen are in high demand overseas, and those particular powertrains are not popular over there, especially EVs.
So they want vehicles that they can get parts readily for. And the thing is, they're really focusing on gas-powered, and they're focusing on Toyota trucks, and they're focusing on Lexus luxury SUVs, and they're focusing on vehicles like pickup trucks, right? Yep. So they want those for faraway places where they don't care about hybrids. They just want to be able to get them fixed if they need to be fixed, and that's the demand.
No, do we have any data backing that up? No, we just spoke to Scott about it, and that was the information that he gave us.
But somebody else told us, we talked to somebody else, and they also said they want cars they can get parts for.
That's what they want. I always watch your show. I know your mom has a 2022 Tucson plug-in hybrid, and just wondering if she's had any problems with her brakes getting rust. When I had my Tucson PHEV service, the dealer said that my brakes are rusted and they're charging me $800 to get it fixed. I said no, since number one, that amount is not in the budget. And two, I don't really feel or hear anything unusual when braking. Dealers said this is usually a problem with EVs since it uses regen braking to stop and not the actual brake. Is this true, and what should I be doing to prevent this from happening? I use my brakes the normal way when stopping.
Can I just say something quickly, Andrea? I think this is car dealers being car dealers.
Me too.
I think this is absolutely a bunch of nonsense. Take it to an independent mechanic shop and get them to take the front wheels off properly. And yes, the plug-in hybrid is going to use the brakes maybe a little bit less, but rust on brakes is a normal function of brakes aging. I wouldn't worry about it at all.
And you will see more of the rust on EVs, hybrids, and plug-in hybrids because of the regen braking, and you're not hitting the brakes hard. Everything is kind of a slower process. A couple things I want to say. First off, we'll start with my mom. No, she has had absolutely no issues with her brakes on her Tucson plug-in hybrid. She did have an oil leak. She didn't notice the oil leak, but when it went in for regular maintenance, they noticed that there was a slight problem, and they decided that, hey, let's get on top of this before you actually see oil on the ground.
Was that a warranty claim?
Yeah, that was all taken care of. So no issues with their brakes. Dealership has said nothing to her about it.
Okay.
Can I just add one more thing?
I just want to say one thing about brakes. Okay, if you wash a car and you spray water on the car and you get some on the wheels, if you park that car and let it sit for a day or two, there will be rust on the rotors.
Yeah.
That's normal. And the brake calipers themselves are big, heavy chunks of iron. They're usually made of iron, and they're painted. And so I think that this is just a dealer being a dealer.
There's nothing wrong with your brakes. You can feel that your brakes are just fine. So don't worry about it. They're just looking at it that it kind of looks dirty.
And they're playing on you, and they go, oh, look at this. There's some
Yeah.
rust there. And you're like, oh, I don't know anything about cars. It's $800. Okay, fix it.
Okay, fix it and clean it. So there is a YouTube channel that I found, never heard of them before, in the US called Legit Street Cars. This person owns a Volt electric vehicle, and he actually shows that his rotors are just so rusty because he says he's never done anything about it, but there's nothing wrong with the brakes. And also, one of his friends is a Tesla mechanic. Anyway, we're going to put the link below to his YouTube video because it's actually quite interesting what he has to say about it. And maybe that will just give you some helpful tips with your situation.
All right. So what I would do with your plug-in hybrid is, if you want to do this, you can drive along at a good rate of speed, and when there's nobody behind you, you don't want to jam on the brakes for no reason. But you can do a hard stop, right? A hard stop that's going to bypass the EV generation from the electric motor and go right to the physical brakes that you're talking about. So you want to get some heat and wear into those brakes. You can do it like every second or third time you take the vehicle out, and it'll be perfectly fine. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with your 2-year-old car.
Yeah.
And you could even go to an independent mechanic and get them to take the front wheels off, and they'll confirm that it's just normal rust.
And there are a few comments on this channel as well where they said, oh yeah, the way I clean it is I put the gear shift in neutral before braking, and that disables regen and will rely solely on the friction of the brakes.
Yep, that's good.
So he'll do that, once in a while. He doesn't need to do that every day. So I thought that was a pretty good suggestion as well. Thanks for the informative Questions, Coffee, and Cars episodes. I'm planning on trading in my 2016 base Mazda 6 GX to a compact SUV, as would love to have some more creature comforts and cargo room. Wanted to get a used hybrid, but RAV4 is really up there in price for vehicles with over 100,000 kilometers. Would a 2021 Ford Escape Titanium hybrid be a good and reliable option? Second option would be a used 2022 Mazda CX-5 GT, though not a hybrid.
And not sure if the GT would be turbo or not either. Yeah, so you have what I always like to refer to as the best sedan nobody bought. Well, you bought it, but it was so unpopular, which is a shame because it was the best car really in its class that nobody bought.
And it looks good.
And they canceled it. So there you go.
Yeah.
So I don't know, which one would you choose? Like, so could you have any numbers on the Ford?
Yeah, I've got some numbers on the 2022 Ford Escape Hybrid and your 2022 CX-5 GT. So Consumer Reports gives the Ford Escape for 2021 a reliability score of 47 out of 100. And in comparison, the RAV4 in 2021 is 80 out of 100. So you kind of see the differences there. Early on, the hybrid Escape did have some issues, but it is better now. JD Power hasn't rated the 2021 Escape yet, but they did the 2022, and it's 80 out of 100. So a much better score.
Well, that's close to the RAV4.
That's right. So moving to the CX-5, great reliability score. JD Power 82 out of 100 and Consumer Reports 79 out of 100. But they handle differently. Like the Ford Escape, I would say, has a more comfortable drive, super comfortable seats. The CX-5 will be more engaging and fun to drive.
Closer to your Mazda 6.
Yeah, so I think if you drove both, you would know what you want.
I think it comes down to fuel economy. I mean,
Yeah.
the Ford is definitely going to win.
Better fuel economy for sure. You guys rock, and we watch you every week. Thank you. We're currently cross-shopping mid-size luxury SUVs. We've narrowed the field down to the Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid and the Cadillac Lyriq EV, acknowledging the differences in both. Can you list the pros and cons in your opinion? And can you and Zach do the 1, 2, 3 with your personal choice? This one's a tough one for me.
So I guess that's the hybrid Lincoln, right?
Yeah, the new Nautilus Hybrid.
Yeah, the hybrid.
Yeah. The Nautilus Hybrid is made in China. And
But
they've been
does that-
getting some great quality scores out of China. Tesla's Model Y in Canada is made in China. And the feedback is that the quality of the vehicle is better than the ones coming out of the US. So I don't have an issue with the Nautilus. Some of you have chimed in about
Well,
that. So
Buick-
I wanted to just get that out right away.
Well, and Buick also makes cars that they bring in from China, and they're some of the highest quality cars. Like Buick is like top 5 when it comes to quality studies. These are very different vehicles. You've got to really answer the question: do you like that big screen in the Lincoln? Do you like that technology? Can you live with that every day? I think the nice thing about the hybrid from Lincoln is you can turn off that big screen and just have the information you want, like the speedometer and that sort of thing. So, that might not be a deal breaker for you, but we thought that the Cadillac did a really good job of making a first EV that was very comfortable.
Yeah, I really like the Lyriq. You're going to pay more for the Lyriq. It has a higher starting price, but then you can factor in rebates for an EV, and that will bring down the cost as well. I do worry about depreciation of EVs versus hybrids, so that's something to consider. Don't know how long you plan to keep this vehicle. Do you plan to lease it? These kinds of questions. Do you want to plug in? Or would you rather just have a hybrid, get pretty good fuel economy, drive it, and not worry about charging it?
You know, on the last 2 questions, Coffee and Cars, I said, and we're talking too much about Lexus and Toyota.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to throw at you a Lexus. Okay, so sort of similar in size to the Lyriq is the Lexus RX. And you can get a straight hybrid from them. And that would be one where you don't have to worry about depreciation as much, and it's a proven entity, and that would be my choice of the 3. But you didn't give us 3. I threw the
No.
3rd one in there.
So I just want to add about the Nautilus. I'm not crazy about the screens in there. I find that it is quite overwhelming. That's just my opinion. I don't like that I have to go into the screen for a lot of functions. I just find that the Cadillac, ease of use with everything just seems easier.
Get the Lexus.
So let's do a 1, 2, 3.
Oh, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, or 3, 2, 1.
All right,
Here
3,
we
2,
go.
1 between the Cadillac and the Lincoln.
Okay, here we go.
3, 2, 1. Cadillac.
Lyriq. Wow, we agree on that one. Living in Toronto with a budget of $40,000 and want a hybrid, deciding between the Corolla Cross and Civic Hatch, both top trims at $40,000. Both cars are pretty similar in practicality. The Corolla Cross is all-wheel drive with more ground clearance, while the Civic is more fun to drive. Which would you pick? 3, 2,
3,
1?
2, 1. Ready?
Civic.
What? Civic,
Oh.
yeah. Well, it's the same answer anyway.
I would do Civic hybrid hatchback.
I think we're going to run into a problem with the Honda Civic. We loved it. And we're talking about it a lot in the last few questions, Coffee and Cars. I think we're going to have a hard time keeping that one in stock.
Yeah.
Because it's just nice to have something else besides a Toyota. I mean, not knocking Toyota. They make great hybrids. And the Corolla Cross is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's a little dull. It's just a good A to B. When we drove it, I was like, it does the job well at pretty much everything. It's not exciting at all.
No.
It's great basic transportation. The Civic, however, is definitely more fun to drive.
Fun. And the steering in the Corolla Cross Hybrid is quite vague. I didn't love it. So for me, definitely hatchback Civic Hybrid. And finally, Honda. I know it's still expensive for a hybrid within that class compared to other hybrids like the Elantra Hybrid or the Corolla Sedan Hybrid. But it's a Honda that in a way is kind of reasonably priced for a Honda, for a hybrid.
That powertrain has to go into the Honda HR-V subcompact crossover yesterday.
Yeah.
It should be in there yesterday. They should have introduced them at the same time. Honda is very slow with the adaptation. The good news is now they have 3 hybrids, and they need it in the HR-V.
And a Honda Prelude hybrid's coming.
That's coming, yeah.
That one I'm super excited about. Hi, Motormouth. If you were looking at getting a manual used car but didn't really know how to drive stick, how would you go about it? Would you test drive the same car in an automatic?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So if you don't know how to drive manual and you want to learn, I don't know what your budget would be. Okay, we'll do a 3, 2, 1 again. Andrew, that's 3, 3, 2, 1s.
Wait.
3, 3, 2, 1s on a car that you could buy that's easy to drive and learn on. What would you pick? 3, 2, 1, Civic. So you could kind of take that to the bank that you can just go and buy. The problem is that Civic now no longer has a manual with the 2-liter engine. You have to get SI.
You have to get SI.
Or Type
but
R.
you could. He's getting a used one. So I think you said, a used manual. So just get a used Civic. It is so easy to learn on. I'm going on again about that manual transmission. I think it is terrific. And then the other one that I also recommend, Mazda. I also really like their manual transmissions. I think that you would be happy with either of them. Learning manual on either of them would be a lot easier than some other options out there.
I'm going to throw another one at you that was sold for about 4 years, maybe not as many around, but Corolla was sold with a manual. So you could get the Corolla hatchback or you could get the Corolla sedan. The one I would look for, the one that I would hunt for would be the latest generation Civic, hatchback, 2-liter, manual transmission. Mwah. And actually, I'm showing you the pictures of it now in blue. And boy, that car was fantastic. Loved it.
You would really enjoy it. So I would say pick the car you want of those.
You have to just buy the Civic hatchback. Just do that.
Do it. That's what I would buy if I was learning to drive manual. That's what I would do.
Only caveat is that you are buying the previous owner's commitment to maintenance, which with the Civic isn't really that hard to figure out. But also how the clutch has been used or abused. So because you're not really proficient at driving manual, you might want to bring somebody who is to take it for a test drive. And if you notice anything weird about the clutch, sort of chafing, or if they would know if they drive manual if it's good or not.
Hey guys, always a pleasure to watch you educate us, sharing so much valuable information to consumers. Thank you. What are your thoughts on the old VW V6 engine versus today's 4-cylinder turbo?
Well, a little technical. It's not a V6, it's a VR6.
Yeah.
So that was introduced in the early 90s and was used in so many hot hatches, like it was sold in the Corrado, they used it in the Scirocco, they used it in the Golf R, then it migrated into a whole bunch of vehicles. We had it in the Cayenne.
We did, yeah.
And then it migrated into the Atlas, and it's a really robust, reliable engine. They've been making it for 30 years. Terrible on gas.
I was just going to say not fuel efficient, but I find that the power delivery is much smoother. I find with Turbo 4s, the lower the RPM is, they're just not as quick. Don't you think the delivery
of the VR6?
No, of the Turbo 4s.
Yeah, well, you got to wait for the turbo to spool up, and you've got a big, heavy vehicle in an Atlas. But the thing is, it all comes down to the gearing, because they basically calibrate the engine horsepower for optimal fuel efficiency and for power with the transmission. So when you need more power, the transmission says, okay, I have to get the car in the right RPMs to get that boost you're talking about. Drop a gear or 2 or 3 3, depending on what you're trying to do. And then a lot of it comes down to the calibration of the transmission, how effective it is. Long-term reliability, 100,000 miles or 160,000 kilometers on it, we don't know.
We don't know. And also if you're towing, I think that that powertrain, the VR6, is a better option than going with a Turbo 4 for longevity.
Imagine how much gas that would use towing with a VR6.
So fuel economy is not great on that. If you want something that's more fuel efficient, the Turbo 4. I like them both. And I would probably go for the newer model with all of the latest technology, and the interior is much nicer in the newer model. Turbo 4 doesn't bother me for how we're driving daily.
You know what, we had it in the spring and we drove it, and both of us were like, we can't believe what's actually powering this thing. It's spooky how good they calibrated all of that together.
Really good, and the transmission is quite good as well. Can you clear up a rumor or give yours and Zach's opinion? Is Genesis about to fail? Dealer networks never established like we're promised. Thanks. Watched your current Questions, Coffee and Cars, by the way. Maybe GM acquires them. No, I haven't heard any rumors about Genesis having any problems. I think they're doing just fine. I think, dealer network is a problem for them. They continue to grow in that regard, but maybe not at the pace that they had hoped initially. In Vancouver, for example, it's no problem here if someone owns a Genesis model, but if you're in an area outside of a main city, then maybe that would be more challenging.
Yeah, but there's enough business in big cities that they don't need to worry about places that are farther away. I mean, most people live nowadays in big metropolitan areas. So if you have one service area in each general municipality, not municipality, but region, then you're probably going to be okay. I would suggest that Genesis is getting set for a refresh. You got to remember the G70, the GV70, the G80 were all introduced about 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's some mild updates they've done to them, and we know the Koreans are relentless with updates on their vehicles. We're going to see refreshed products, and they're going to come to market with new powertrains. They've already said they're going to introduce hybrids into those vehicles or whatever else is coming throughout the line. They have the electric versions as well. So I wouldn't for a second believe that the Hyundai Group is going to fold their tent after just a few short years, because the one thing that the Koreans have is a lot of pride, and they want to stick it to the Japanese as bad as they can. A lot of bad blood between Korea and Japan because of the war. So they are hell-bent on beating Toyota, for example.
And you just wait till Genesis comes out with the rumored 2.5-liter hybrid system that they're going to use in their models. Oh man, those are going to be a big hit. And you can see how Lincoln with the Nautilus decided to move into a hybrid, and obviously that hybrid system is going to be used in other vehicles within that company as well. So you just wait for Genesis. They've got big things coming. Yeah. Any info on a new Lexus IS with an updated interior? I've always loved this car. My mom has a 2016 model. The interior is just outdated. Would love to see the new Lexus interior make its way to the IS. Also heard a rumor it was coming back as a fully electric for next redesign. 2025 Lexus is already announced. There is going to be some more standard features, but there is no interior redesign whatsoever. The rumor is that for 2026, yes, is going to come back as an EV. Forbes is saying that, reporting that, maybe the same powertrain as the RZ or RZ.
I predicted this when we reviewed it, and people were like, "Oh, this is." I actually, if you go and watch the videos, I said that the updated IS that we have now is a placeholder car. They're not going to invest huge amounts of money to redo a car that they already have plans for. And I think the plan is to go full EV. We were shown at the Japanese Mobility Show about a year ago that they have an electric vehicle in the works for 2027.
Yeah.
So you think about 2026, sold as a 2027 model. It didn't have a name really. It had like a functioning concept name, but that could be the car.
I think so too. You never know. So all of this, just a whole bunch of rumors, but for 2025, The IS remains the same with some extra standard features. And that's it for us. Thanks for watching. If you want to get a question in, follow along on Instagram at motormouth_Andrea. Every Sunday morning I put a post out on Instagram asking for questions. Once we gather our questions, the post is deleted and we start the show. Thanks for watching.
See you next time.